But unfortunately, he has sold out his entire principles, all for right-wing grift. So there's a lot of videos from vegan content creators on YouTube critiquing the ex-vegan testimonies. In particular, MicTheVegan. And I gotta hand it to Mike, he does a pretty awesome job. And so, I'm gonna give my 2 cents on this issue. I am going to try to be as fair as I can with my analysis here. So, ex-vegans. Sure, it's a controversial topic for many in the vegan community, for many reasons. For me though, when it comes to ex-vegans, for the most part, a lot of them are a mixed bag. I'm sure some of them are honest in their convictions. However, there are those who are at least highly questionable, and there are others that, well, I find it very difficult to believe very much of anything of what they have to say. And I know that the anti-vegans have this long-running meme paraphrasing our view on ex-vegans with the phrase, "You're doing it wrong." Well, you see, the thing with that meme and all of its incarnations is that it's actually not the gotcha that they think it is. So when you have people who may call themselves vegan, self-declare themselves as vegan, but don't really talk about or think about animal welfare or how poorly animals are treated, maybe they are fully plant-based in terms of their diet, or at the very least predominantly plant-based in terms of their diet. Such a person, well, that ain't a vegan. Now, of course, diet does come into veganism, but only in the sense that the vegan philosophy influences our choices to what is ethical for us to put into our bodies in the form of food, and also, additionally, what we put on the outside of our bodies in the forms of clothing and beauty products, due to many practices in many industries causing harm to the animals. If you are not seeing veganism as a philosophy that influences us to treat animals better and informs us of a better way to ethically treat animals, well then you're not a vegan. And honestly, celebrity culture is the cause of so many going around parading the vegan name while ignoring the entirety of its actual philosophy. These celebrities who claim to be a 3-day vegan or something of that nature, first of all, there's no such thing as a 3-day vegan. That's totally absurd. But if you were to try that approach with any other form of activism, most people would probably call you a hypocrite, and they would be right. And hey, if you want to try a vegan 30-day challenge as a stepping stone to becoming fully vegan, then by all means, I fully respect that. But please, please, educate yourself on what is happening to these animals, how they are treated, how they are tortured. I have various other videos on animal cruelty available on this channel, as do many other vegan creators on YouTube and other places. There are many documentaries available for free on YouTube, if not on other streaming platforms, all across the board. I do highly recommend checking these out so you can be informed on the reality of just how badly and how poorly these animals are treated. This does not mean that a vegan cannot be vegan partially for health reasons. The health benefits of veganism, or rather the plant-based diet, are simply an added bonus on top of adopting an ethical approach to animal welfare and animal rights. While the ethics behind veganism is the main focus point to why we are vegan. However, it cannot be ignored that since the vast majority of products we consume daily usually tend to be food. So for those of us who are concerned with health, what we really should be doing is actually balancing the ethical choices with the sustainably healthy choices. And sure, being plant-based will avoid a lot of health issues, and it may even improve our well-being in many different ways. But treating veganism as a diet with no ethical backing is just a recipe for disaster. No pun intended. There have been a bunch of influencers who have either eating disorders or adapt an extreme version of plant-based diets, including Fruitarian, the raw vegan diet, plant-based diets involving a predominant intake of highly processed foods such as a lot of mock meats and juice cleanses done over a very long period of time. I swear every time I hear an ex-vegan utter the phrase, "I was a vegan for 5 years. I was on the raw vegan diet." Every time I hear that, my eyes roll. Now don't get me wrong, these extreme versions of plant-based diets can work for a while, but for most people over a long period of time, they tend not to be sustainable. Which unfortunately causes a lot of folks to conclude, oh well, this didn't work for me, so I guess that means veganism is not sustainable, which is obviously a very defeatist mentality, and 9 times out of 10, such people have never even considered trying the whole foods plant-based diet. Most vegans who consume a whole foods plant-based diet, or at least predominantly whole foods, tend to have a much easier time in sustaining their plant-based diets. And most vegans who actually educate themselves on animal welfare and animal cruelty tend to be a lot more focused and a lot more influenced, a lot more inspired to remain vegan. If you go vegan for yourself, and only for yourself, you are missing the entire point. Whereas if you are vegan for the animals, that in of itself is a huge, massive motivator to staying vegan. Now, one of the ex-vegans that people like Piers Morgan love to bring up whenever debating with vegans on his show is someone called Bear Grylls, who I've actually never heard of until Morgan started fanboying this person.
So you're saying Bear Grylls was a fake vegan?
He never was a vegan.
Anywho, Grylls, who has become somewhat of a reality TV personality, which is probably why I've never heard of him, because I just don't find reality TV interesting at all. But Grylls claimed at one point to be a vegan, despite never actually talking about animal welfare or animal cruelty. Well, apart from that one time, he says he regretted killing too much animals on a reality survival show. Which is an odd take. I would say that any killing at all would be too much. When asked about being a former vegan, Grylls says, and I quote, "I was a vegan quite a few years ago. In fact, I wrote a vegan cookbook, and I feel a bit embarrassed because I really promoted that. I thought that was good for the environment, and I thought it was good for my health." Firstly, it is so striking to me that his main focus for when he was allegedly a vegan was his health. No mention of animal cruelty, or animal welfare, or animal abuse, none of that at all. And his so-called vegan cookbook is actually not a vegan cookbook at all. It may contain some plant-based recipe options, but it contains a lot of recipes involving animal products, i.e. dead animals. Many involving meat-based ingredients. So it's kind of weird that he calls his cookbook that contain recipes that require dead animals as part of the ingredients. It's kind of weird that he calls that a vegan cookbook. I mean, does he not understand what the word vegan means? In any case, he has never written or co-written a vegan cookbook. If anything, he should be more embarrassed of the fact that his vegan cookbook isn't even vegan. So if this is Piers Morgan's idea of an ex-vegan poster boy, well, I hate to break it to him, but this is more of a case of a person who tried a plant-based diet for a while, then wrote a cookbook with some plant-based recipes alongside some non-plant-based recipes in the same book, never really cared about animal rights or animal cruelty, never really discussed that in any way, shape, or form, and then all of a sudden decided to go carnivore for no real reason whatsoever. I think it's pretty safe to say he was never a vegan. Of course, some vegans do genuinely change their minds. Now, their reasons to why they changed their minds are questionable at best, which brings us to the case of Russel Brand. With Russel Brand, a lot of this has got to do with basically becoming a right-wing grifter. Unfortunately, he's been going in that direction for quite a while now, so this doesn't surprise me. Russel Brand has always been a pretty self-serving individual. There's been a lot of speculation that Brand's grift to the far right is out of necessity, the necessity of seeking out a support group. A support group who will not have a problem with the fact that Brand has multiple SA allegations. This is part of why we see Brand becoming a born-again Christian out of the blue. Why we see him getting all chummy with the MAGA cult, and, incidentally, abandoning veganism. The far right who love capitalism are not exactly going to cozy up to veganism, as veganism is often seen as a threat to capitalism. So essentially, it's all self-serving as a means to save his own skin while throwing the animals under the bus. So I'm not going to say that Russel Brand was never a vegan. I think at one point in his life he really did care about animals. And I do know in the past he has actually spoken about animal cruelty. He's supported vegan festivals in the UK for many, many years. But unfortunately, he has sold out his entire principles, all for right-wing grift. And that's where I'm going to leave today's video, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. As always, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.